Okay, so I have been trying to do this for a few days. Um, I am having problems putting what I'm about to share out because there are certain issues when you create something, putting it out there, then makes it real, and then once it's real, it then can be subject to interpretation, subject to criticism, subject to whatever. Um, there is a professor that I studied under when I was in school that is currently going through a particular situation regarding racial insensitivity. Now, the idea of racial insensitivity is important. And this particular teacher, over these years, especially since Trump and 2016 and all the craziness in which people are interacting with people, I've gone at it with her. You know, I've used language, she's used language, and it's been fun. To be honest, it's been fun because she actually is an individual that can handle being challenged because she's like, I'm a strong individual. So it was contentious, but it was never diminutive of another's humanity. I hope. Um, Within these times now, we consider this is July 24th, I believe, 2020. Right now, there's protests going on around the country. BLM, white privilege, anti-racist, white fragility. You know, it's like there's a lot of emphasis on religious. What? Sorry. Sure. Religious. No, there's a lot of emphasis on racial identity and the way it is superimposed into our society. Um, Over the years, what's happened, there's been again, a focus on the racial aspect of society and how there is injustice and therefore there needs to be a course correction, wherein professors or educators or people in authority need to step down so that people of color, POCs, can take over and therefore have their messages out there, and have their version, not their version, have their, um, I guess their version, there it is, their version of uh, the way through life represented. Um, Now, my issue is that I find I find that this is a very subversive topic because, like, if you can simply look at somebody and then therefore assume their life experiences, and in the next breath say that racism is bad, then what you've done is just assumed based on race or outward expression things, and that is therefore racist. Now, that concept is a bleeding heart. It's a bleeding heart. Now, what we are finding now are that there's a difference. There's a use of weaponization of language, a weaponization of intent. We all know at this point of cancel culture, meaning that I can think that this person is doing something, and because I'm emotionally offended, therefore I need to let this person know, let the powers that be, and get them removed. Now, I think this is a softening of American culture because the strength of individualities is of rising through turmoil. You know. So this person, I'm not going to mention the name. This person was the target of emotional racial bias perpetuated by individuals that were not of the POC race, but by people that believed that they could use the times and their voices to make the world better by removing an educator. Now, again, remind you, these are people just out of high school that using their power of privilege and their voice, and I mean privilege. I don't mean like white privilege. I mean the power of the fact that they have the privilege at this exact time to use their voice to attack and take down. The power of the privilege of cancel culture. Um, so I wrote down a great deal of notes, which my intention was to type it up and send it off to this person. But this person decided that they were like, "Hey, I'm of the age where I'm gonna be gone in anyway. I'm gonna take the money and I'm gonna run." And I'm like, "Man, I get it." It's upsetting that this person who has had so much agency over their life now can use their power of choice, but only because it's forced upon them. So I find that a little frustrating, but I do respect that this person is making their own path for the happiness of them and their families, even though the circumstances that have led up to it I consider complete and utter bull pucky. So I'm going to read this. This is the letter that I was going to send to the school. And it kind of crosses and speaks to a lot of different things that are going on. But I'm just going to read this. Yeah. All right. To those that margin need, to those that make choice, to those that live in these times, to those that choose to empower my voice, to those that have dignity of time, to those that have been around a while, with respect. With an individual voice, I call for the respect of craft. I call for the types of artistry. I call for the tempers of artistry be respected. Humanity is not cut out of stereotypes. It is not a momentary idea. It acts upon an ever moving wave. We exist in splashes from large rocks, self imposed. Reaction. I write this on the behalf of an educator that has had provided an entrance into the real work of being an actor, being a playwright, being a thespian. I find these times have created a culture in which outrage has become not a valid counterpoint, but a weapon that the educational system has coddled and made strange. We have taught battle. The professor, this person was my professor. In my time in school, she was one of the teachers that really challenged me. I was provided texts that I really had a hard time interacting with, and that teacher was teaching substitution. I once directed a play. Just to let you know, as I was reading this, I was getting more and more drunk. So, well, I only say that not because of the ideas are flawed, or maybe they are. It's your choice for that. But I say that because sometimes it gets a little messy. I once directed a play wherein the actress didn't memorize her lines. I had to let her go. The tears, the sadness, the anger placed in my direction was real, but was it necessary? In the day and age, she could have accused me of being a racist or a sexist. She could have taken me down because she was upset because the expectation of her doing what she needed to do was not being met. I don't ask for anything but a return to rational thinking. Your institution has interacted with education of young minds directly out of high school. These minds are so young. These minds are sponges, undeveloped yet consuming everything they can. College is about consuming knowledge, based in discipline. Yet, elective has created a sense of fight. I don't need to make an argument, rational or sound. I need only to feel that I have the power, taught in college, to take down persons of authority and more so knowledge. The times have provided a strange time that activism and adherence to cancel culture that was once bringing down Weinsteins and Epsteins is now bringing down masters of education. The expectation that the world is easy and that people will always interact with your measure of comfort is asinine and something one should learn at school. I obviously do not understand the situation for which I am addressing, because I'm speaking a situation and I only know about it via the news and via conversations. So to completely speak truthfully about everyone's situation, I cannot say. I obviously do not understand the situation for which I am addressing. I am a Loria that went to the school. Oh, I am an alum that went to the school. The crux. The riled nature, the division, the fighting, the idea of empowerment has been taught within the hallowed halls of education, but it is turned on itself. It is nailing itself as its own enemy. It makes decisions of the past that were based on the merit and commitment now seems like racist systemic bullshit. I'm going to read that again because it didn't make sense to me. It is making decisions of the past that were based on merit and commitment now seem like racist systemic bullshit. The day it turns on me, the teacher equals validation. I am not a fan of this teacher's political opinion. We have exchanged words on the social media, and to honor my truth, the most fun, confrontational engagements I have had. I will not be discussing the situation that has caused me to write this letter. I will be unable to place myself in the situation I was not a part of. Yet the situation has made itself public, and the connection to my professor. I speak toward the president. I speak toward the president being created by actions I perceive from the outside. There is no need to be cruel based on the whims of children empowered. There is no need to be cruel based on the whims of children empowered. I do applaud the unreversions for creating such powerful activists. I do applaud I do applaud the need for creating such powerful activists. It is a true testament to the power of education. But what is education now? What type of perfection do we seek? I cried in Victor's class nearly as much as the teacher I'm speaking about. I was learning. I could not imagine. I lost my black box shell. Why am I writing this? I'm wondering if I can keep your attention. Language is the most powerful instrument of coercion. Simply the devilish intent language is that of theater. Language is what my professor taught me. You consider me black because when you see me, I am. In this moment of time, please understand the double-edged sword being cut into the very fabric of education. There is not a need to cut those that hold knowledge, despite. At the knees, there is There is not a need to cut those that hold knowledge down at the knees and place them supplicant to the ideology as the strength of the youth as they suppress to impact trade ship. What I'm saying is, we don't need to supplicate ourselves to the moments that are in the now based on anger and emotion, and specifically using that anger and emotion to bend it towards what I just consider selfish needs. I mean, when I lost my show, and I mean, I wish I no, I mean, I in this day and age, I could have been like, they all hate me because of this, and I could have like, destroyed them. But it was only just to get a show. It was just me being selfish, and I wanted my way. The need to learn craft has become the second fiddle to truth of seeking mastery. If I'm oppressed, how can I ever receive mastery if the system need be taken down first? Why be for trade if one thinks doctrination of knowledge is viable political vastry? I do apologize for that. This letter is not a defense of this teacher. This letter is a questioning of the placements of ideology of a squeaky wheel of individuals that have misplaced understanding of education, relationships, and collegiate level understandings of their craft. Students are held like baby eggs. I studied the philosophy of silence, rhyming geometry versus Euclidean geometry, and application to space travel and gravimetric forces. I was a broken egg. I didn't do too well in that class. But I didn't blame the teacher. Can I call racism and get that guy fired for failing me? As I've said, I think money. Time is our lock. The key is foresight. Please don't bend to laundry. There is no need unless it is all about money, honestly. Please don't bend to laundry. In conclusion, I wrote this really neat. The circumstances of our current climate have created an environment wherein the customers expecting to learn trade, craft, and research study have been so swelled with political and identitarian politics that focuses on education has been degraded, allowing a disgruntled student or others that choose to speak on the behalf of the said students during a course of education seems like a misunderstanding of education. To whom it may concern. I thank you, my teacher, so much for providing true craft knowledge. If this teacher isn't returning to teach in the theater, let me just read this. This is the very last sentence. As I said, I was drinking. I say the person's name. I thank you, teacher. Professor. I thank you so much for providing true craft knowledge. If she isn't returning to teach my theater instead of protest theater. So I don't know what that is, but I guess my point was we need to stop teaching protest and craft. You know, if you're a doctor, if you think of House, could you imagine firing House, a brilliant doctor, but because he's rude, because people think he's rude, you get rid of him? If you want to save some money, save some money. But letting the 19-year-old artist students dictate, well, sign of the times.